stop scrolling. This is your reminder that you're not behind. I don't care what your age is, what you haven't done yet, or how far ahead everyone else looks. You're not late. You're not lost. You are exactly where you need to be to take your next step. We've been sold this lie that success has a deadline, but guess what? You're not on their timeline. You're on yours. And today, we're flipping the script. Let's talk about why you're not behind. You're just getting started. You are not late. You are not behind. You're running your own damn race. One of the biggest reasons people feel overwhelmed, discouraged, or stuck is because they believe they're falling behind in life. Behind who? Behind what? Think about it. There is no universal clock for success. No invisible scoreboard that declares when you're allowed to feel accomplished. But still, we scroll through social media and see highlight reels that convince us we're somehow lagging, that everyone else is 10 steps ahead while we're barely off the starting block. That's a lie, a powerful one, and it's stealing your peace. Here's the truth. Every time you measure your life against someone else's timeline, you rob yourself of the progress you've actually made. You're comparing your raw footage to someone else's edited, filtered, cropped version of reality. And you forget that the people you're watching have their own struggles, delays, insecurities. They just don't post about them. What you see is their end result. You don't see the long nights, the failures, the doubt, or the moments they almost quit. We've been conditioned to think that life should look a certain way by a certain age. Graduate at 22, land your dream job by 25, be married by 30, own a house, have kids, get promoted, retire comfortably. The list goes on. But that timeline is fiction. It was never real. And worse, it's not one size fits all. Some people find their calling at 50. Some people rebuild their life after loss. Some people change careers 5 times before landing where they're supposed to be. And guess what? That's not failure. That's growth. There's nothing wrong with wanting more. Ambition is a beautiful thing. But when ambition turns into pressure, and pressure becomes self-punishment, you have to stop and check yourself. Are you really behind? Or are you just holding yourself to a timeline that doesn't belong to you? You are not a machine. You are not a product. You are a human being with a journey that's entirely your own. And sometimes the things you think are slowing you down are actually giving you the wisdom, resilience, and grit you'll need for what's coming. The detours? They weren't wasted time. They were preparation. That heartbreak taught you empathy. That job you hated showed you what you won't tolerate. That season of stillness gave you clarity. All of it was shaping you. We often treat life like a race. We sprint, we burn out, we look sideways to see who's ahead of us. But life's not a sprint. It's not even a marathon. It's a walk through unknown territory, and the path unfolds as you go. Some people may shoot ahead for a while, but they don't know what terrain they'll face next. Your pace is your power. What matters isn't how fast you go. It's that you keep going. You don't need to have it all figured out. Nobody does. Even the people who seem like they have their dream life are still battling self-doubt, fear, and uncertainty. You're not late because you're still learning. You're not late because you're healing. You're not late because you're building slowly and deliberately. You're not late just because someone else got there faster. Imagine if a flower thought it was behind just because it didn't bloom at the same time as another. Ridiculous, right? Flowers don't rush their blooming. Seasons take their time. Nature doesn't force anything. And yet we try to force our lives into a mold that doesn't fit. Here's something powerful to remember. Your timing is not off. It's unfolding. You are on your way. Just because your path isn't straight or your progress isn't visible yet doesn't mean it isn't happening. Maybe you don't see the results, but something inside you is shifting. You're becoming more aware, more determined, more clear on what matters. And that invisible progress is often the most important kind because it sets the stage for everything else. Don't dismiss how far you've come just because it's not where you thought you'd be by now. You've survived 100% of your worst days. You've gotten through things you once thought would break you, and you're still here. Still standing, still trying. That is not falling behind. That is relentless forward motion. There's a version of you in the future who's looking back on this moment with gratitude. Because this version, the one who's doubting, struggling, hustling, wondering, is the version who didn't quit. This version is the bridge between where you were and where you're going. And every day you wake up and choose to keep moving, no matter how small the step, you are declaring, I'm not behind, I'm on my way. You're building a life, and building takes time. You wouldn't yell at a house for not being complete after 2 days. You wouldn't criticize a sculptor for taking years to finish a masterpiece. So why do you talk to yourself that way? Give yourself the same grace, the same patience, the same belief that something beautiful is in progress, even if you can't fully see it yet. You're not meant to follow someone else's script. You're meant to write your own story. And that means the timing, the chapters, the lessons, the breakthroughs, they'll all come when they're supposed to. No sooner, no later. Just right. And in the meantime, keep showing up, keep learning, keep trusting. Because you're not behind. You're right on time. That delay you didn't expect, that detour that threw your plans off track, that season of waiting, struggling, pivoting, it wasn't random. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a waste of time. It was part of the route. That experience, as uncomfortable or painful or confusing as it felt, was preparing you for the next level, for the next opportunity, for the next version of you. We've been taught to see setbacks as signs of failure. We've been conditioned to believe that anything that doesn't go according to plan is a step in the wrong direction. But what if the plan you had wasn't actually big enough for the life you're meant to live? What if the detour was the only way to get to the real destination? It's easy to trust a process when everything's going smoothly, when the doors are flying open, when you're checking the boxes and hitting the milestones. But what about when things go silent? What about when you lose the job? What about when the relationship ends? When your health fails? When the opportunities dry up and you feel stuck, stalled, or forgotten? That's where real growth happens. It's in the waiting room of life that you learn who you really are. It's in those in-between moments, the ones you can't post about, the ones nobody claps for, that you start to build something stronger. A foundation made of resilience, perspective, patience, inner strength. That's the stuff success is actually built on, not just the achievements people see on the outside. Mel Robbins talks about how life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you if you're willing to look at it that way. And that mindset shift is everything. Because if you can believe that everything you've been through has value, you stop resenting your past. You stop running from the hard stuff, and instead you start using it. Every tough experience you've had carries a lesson about who you are, a lesson about what matters, a lesson that you couldn't have learned any other way. That mistake you still replay in your head, it taught you boundaries. That job that broke you down, it taught you what kind of leader you want to be. That rejection that stung, it forced you to pivot. And in doing so, it pointed you towards something better. You might not have chosen the detour, but it chose you for a reason. And no, you didn't deserve the pain. No, it wasn't fair. But growth rarely is. It shows up in the form of discomfort and disappointment, and only later do we see what it was doing for us the whole time. The detour is rarely comfortable, but it's often critical. There's a version of you that doesn't exist yet, a version that's more confident, more certain, more courageous, and the only way to meet them is to go through what you're going through right now. That delay is part of your development. It's refining your character. It's testing your faith. It's revealing your grit, and it's giving you a deeper appreciation for what's coming. Because when you finally get there, you'll know you earned it. See, most people want the results. They want the success, the breakthrough, the glow up, but they don't want the refining process that comes before it. They don't want the nights of uncertainty. They don't want the silence. They don't want the struggle. But those are the exact ingredients that make the success meaningful. If you skip the struggle, you skip the strength. If everything happened on your timeline, you wouldn't be prepared. You wouldn't be humble. You wouldn't be able to handle the pressure. You wouldn't know how to lead, how to empathize, how to keep going when things get hard. The detour doesn't just change your direction. It changes you. And that's the whole point. Think about a time in your life when something didn't go the way you wanted, but looking back, it turned out better than you imagined. Maybe the thing you thought you lost actually made room for something better. Maybe the wrong turn led to a place you never would have discovered otherwise. That's not coincidence. That's clarity earned through experience. And sometimes the delay is there to protect you. Sometimes the reason you haven't gotten what you want yet is because you're still becoming the person who can hold it. That's not a punishment. That's wisdom. That's timing working for you, not against you. When you believe that your journey is the route, not a mistake, not a delay, not a punishment, everything changes. You stop panicking. You stop rushing. You stop questioning your worth. And instead, you start walking with a different energy. You start showing up with a sense of purpose, even in the uncertainty. You start saying, I don't have all the answers yet, but I trust that what I'm going through, the brain is designed to keep you safe, not to help you grow. That's why doing something new always feels hard. It's not because you're incapable. It's because your brain equates discomfort with danger. So it tries to talk you out of the very thing that will lead to your breakthrough. But once you understand this, you can stop waiting for your brain to give you permission and start giving it to yourself. Mel Robbins calls it the 5-second rule for a reason. You get 5 seconds to act before your brain talks you out of it. 5 seconds to disrupt the pattern. 5 seconds to go from stuck to moving. It's all it takes to start. People think motivation is supposed to feel good. But the truth is, it often feels like resistance, like friction, like doubt. And that's okay. The presence of fear or discomfort doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing something worthwhile. Growth always comes with resistance. Just like lifting weights builds muscle, pushing through discomfort builds strength. You're not supposed to feel like it. You're supposed to do it anyway. And when you do, something shifts. You realize that fear is just a feeling, not a stop sign, not a barrier, just a sensation that passes the moment you take action. Stop romanticizing the idea of being ready. Ready is not a feeling. It's a choice. It's a decision you make in the moment when you decide that your future matters more than your fear, that your dreams are worth being uncomfortable for, that your growth is more important than your pride, that your purpose is louder than your excuses. You don't find your power by waiting. You find it by moving, by taking that first imperfect step and then the next and then another. One action at a time, you start to rewrite your story from I can't to I am. There will be days when you don't want to move, when the weight of doubt feels heavier than your hope, when you question if it's even worth it. But those are the days that count the most, because those are the days that build your discipline. Those are the days that prove to your nervous system that you can move through hard things and still keep going. And every time you do, you become a little more unshakable, a little more grounded, a little more of who you were meant to be. Action isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait to be rescued. If you want to change your life, change what you do. Not someday, today. Change the way you speak to yourself. Change the way you respond to fear. Change the way you move through resistance. Start small. Start scared. Start where you are. But start. The only way to create a life that feels different is to do something different. And it doesn't have to feel magical or inspirational in the moment. Most real change feels gritty, awkward, clumsy at first. That's normal. That's part of it. Embrace the messy start, because that's where transformation lives. You are not a passive observer in your own life. You are the author. You get to decide what happens next. Not your fear, not your past, not your doubt. You. And every action you take is a vote for the future you believe in. So cast your votes wisely. Show up for yourself when it's hard. Move, even when you're unsure. Build that muscle, that resilience, that proof that you are no longer waiting for the perfect moment, because the moment is now. The decision is now. And the momentum is yours to claim. One step at a time. One choice at a time. One powerful movement forward. It's easy to compare your journey to someone else's highlight reel, to scroll through perfectly curated posts and feel like everyone else has it figured out, like they're ahead, they've arrived, they're winning, while you're still trying to get out of your own head. But here's what they're not showing you: the doubts they wrestle with, the failures they've faced, the nights they've cried in silence, the things they've had to let go of just to keep going. Every single person you admire has walked through the fire. They've doubted themselves. They've wanted to quit, and they've questioned if it was all worth it. You're not alone for feeling like it's hard. You're human. The path to purpose isn't a straight line. It's full of dips, wrong turns, and lonely stretches that make you wonder if you're even on the right road. But being in a different chapter doesn't mean you're falling behind. It just means you're still becoming. Mel Robbins often says, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. That principle applies here too. You're not meant to be where they are because you're not them. You're building something uniquely yours, something real, something rooted. And roots take time. They grow in silence, underground, unnoticed. But they're what make everything sustainable when it blooms. You don't owe the world speed. You don't owe the algorithm a milestone. You don't owe anyone a perfect narrative. What you owe yourself is truth, grit, alignment, that deep inner knowing that even if it's not happening as fast as you thought, it's still happening. Progress is not always visible. Sometimes it's invisible shifts in your mindset. Sometimes it's choosing to get back up when no one sees you fall. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to not give up today, even though yesterday nearly broke you. That's growth. That's momentum. And that counts, even if it's not loud or shiny or praised. What someone else is doing is not your business. Their timeline, not your concern. Their pace, not your problem. The more you stare at their race, the more you sabotage your own rhythm. You start making choices based on pressure instead of purpose. You start chasing their version of success instead of your own fulfillment. And that leads to burnout, bitterness, and feeling disconnected from what used to excite you. You don't need to keep up, you need to keep going. In your direction, at your pace, in a way that feels true to the kind of life you want to build, not just the one that looks good to strangers. There is no universal timeline. There is no finish line that makes you enough. Success doesn't expire, and worth isn't attached to how quickly you arrive. Some people peak early, others bloom late, and both are valid, both are beautiful. What matters is that you bloom, that you stay open, that you stay willing, that you don't count yourself out because your timing looks different. Some of the most impactful stories are the ones that took the longest to unfold, the ones where everything looked uncertain until it didn't, where the journey was slow, but the transformation was unforgettable. Your story deserves that kind of space. Every single step you're taking right now is shaping you. It may not look like much from the outside, but inside, something powerful is happening. You're learning to hold your own hand through the hard moments. You're building resilience muscle. You're rewriting the script that says, I'm behind, and replacing it with, I'm exactly where I need to be. That shift, that internal transformation, it's what creates real confidence. Not the kind that needs external validation, but the kind that's rooted in who you're becoming. The kind that doesn't panic when the timeline shifts, because you've learned to trust the process, not just the outcome. When you stop obsessing over where you should be, you free yourself to actually be here, in this moment, in this season, learning what it's here to teach you, receiving what it's here to give. Sometimes the gift is clarity, sometimes it's strength, sometimes it's the simple reminder that you're still standing, and that in itself is a win. There's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting more, but the pursuit of more becomes dangerous when it erases the beauty of now. This version of you, the one that's trying, growing, healing, still showing up, is already doing something remarkable. Comparison will always kill your joy because it distracts you from what's working. It hijacks your focus. It magnifies your insecurity. But when you turn your gaze inward, when you get curious instead of critical, you start to reclaim your power. You start to see your own progress with fresh eyes. You start to realize how far you've come, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's path. And more importantly, you stop performing and start aligning. That's where your power lives, not in pretending to be somewhere you're not, but in owning exactly where you are and making the most of it. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Not your family, not your friends, not social media, not your past self. The only person you owe anything to is the version of you who didn't quit. The one who kept going when it was hard. The one who believed in something more, even when everything said otherwise. That's who you're doing this for. And that's enough. You're not behind because someone else got there faster. You're not less worthy because your process looks different. You are on your way, and every step is part of the unfolding, not a detour. The destination isn't what makes you worthy. It's how you show up along the way. It's how you treat yourself when things take longer than expected. It's how you speak to yourself when you're in the middle, not at the mountaintop. That's where the magic is. That's where your story becomes one of grit, grace, and growth. Let the world rush. Let them race. You move with purpose, with integrity, with the deep knowing that your time is not running out. It's building up, stacking into something real. And when it comes, you'll be ready. Not because you forced it, but because you honored the journey.